was his second as the Eagles stand tall victorious by the final score of 34-29. With that, we welcome you inside our NFL Network newsroom. Mike Am, along with my friend Steve Weich. A lot to unpack here. This game didn't come down to a toenail like the one that you were in person in Kansas City to watch.
We finally got our first glimpse of the revamped Philadelphia Eagles offense during their Friday night win over the Green Bay Packers, winning 34-29. And all I'm going to say is the NFL better watch out this season because the Eagles will definitely be a problem. I really just want to focus on the offensive side of the ball during this video. But before we get into the video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel because I will be producing Philadelphia Eagles content as the season continues. Also, make sure you leave a like as well if you enjoyed the video. It doesn't even take 5 seconds and it really helps the channel grow. Now that we got that all out the way, let's get into the video. Like I said earlier in the intro, the Eagles took down the Packers in a shootout in Brazil. And even though the game was played in not so perfect field conditions, this game was absolutely must-watch TV. We finally got to see Saquon Barkley in this offense, and man, it's about time we got to see this guy play with a capable offensive line. As we all know, the Philadelphia Eagles acquired Saquon Barkley during free agency. They signed him to a 3-year, $37.5 million contract. And just after watching him play in his first game in an Eagles jersey, I'd say money was well spent. The Eagles made it clear that they were going to feature him throughout the game, as we all expected, and this guy just absolutely filled up the stat sheet. Saquon finished the game with 109 rushing yards on 24 carries, averaging 4.5 yards per carry and 2 touchdowns. He also tacked on 2 catches for 23 yards and a touchdown through the air. Many people had mixed opinions on Saquon. We all knew during his tenure with the New York Giants, he was running behind a terrible offensive line, but many people also said he wasn't the same player because all of the injuries he sustained during his time there. Well, I think it's safe to say Saquon is still a very explosive player. And now that he's running behind one of the best offensive lines in the league, it only makes sense that he would be able to put up these kind of numbers. Can you imagine how Giants fans feel right now, knowing they just wasted the majority of Saquon's prime? The front office has obviously been dysfunctional over the years, with their incapabilities of putting a solid offensive line group together, and then choosing to pay Daniel Jones, a guy many people still have questions about, over a guy his teammates who would literally run through a wall for. I'm not gonna go too hard on the Giants in this video. That's not really the point, but I think we can all agree and say one of the worst things in sports is seeing a superstar player's talent being wasted by an incompetent organization. I think as long as Saquon stays healthy, it just adds a new dimension to this offense that they just haven't had in the past. Now, let's talk about some of these receivers because I know when it comes to the skill positions, the Eagles are just straight up loaded. A.J. Brown just continues to show why he's one of the best wide receivers in the league after finishing the game with 119 receiving yards and 5 catches. That's 24 yards average, which is absolutely insane. He also scored a 67-yard touchdown in the third quarter that put the Eagles back up on top 24-19. Brown just continues to show why the Eagles traded for him from the Tennessee Titans a few years ago. He's just that guy, and now that the Eagles have him locked up for the future, I'm sure he will continue to put up monster numbers because he's just one of the focal points of the offense. Devontae Smith joined the party as well with 84 receiving yards and 7 catches, and even though he didn't score, his presence was definitely felt all throughout the game. This wide receiver duo is one of the best in the league, and I expect them to continue to produce at a very high level like they usually do. Jalen Hurts didn't have his best game. I think he was very sloppy, but hey, that doesn't really matter because they still got the win. You can tell he is still building chemistry with some of his new offensive linemen, but I'm sure most of these issues can be fixed and will be fixed as the season continues. Hurts finished the game with 278 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. There were a few botched snaps between him and his new center, with one of them resulting in a fumble recovered by the Packers, but with time, I'm sure those things will be fixed. I want to talk about the offensive line a little bit because even though they did lose a few pieces, I still think this unit still has a lot of potential to be elite. Let's start with the familiar names like Jordan Mailata, Cam Jurgens, and Lane Johnson. Those guys are familiar faces, of course, and are the anchors of this line, especially with the departure of Jason Kelce due to retirement. Cam Jurgens and Mekhi Becton are the new faces, and as long as they can get coached up to where the coaches want them to be, then the NFL definitely needs to look out. I'm going to keep a close eye on Mekhi Becton throughout the year because he was drafted very high by the Jets and they thought he could be their franchise left tackle. But after the Eagles signed him to a 1-year prove-it deal, it looks like they have other plans for him, moving him to guard. This is a player who has a very high ceiling. If he can just get himself right, and if he does, having 6'7", 360-pound Mekhi Becton next to 6'6", 325-pound Lane Johnson can definitely be a big problem. Lastly, another big move the Eagles made was adding offensive coordinator Kellen Moore to their coaching staff to help this offense after their slump a year ago. Kellen Moore is known as one of the best offensive minds currently in the NFL, and during his time with the Dallas Cowboys, they consistently had one of the best offenses in the league, so it just made sense hiring him. Maybe he can provide a similar effect with Jalen Hurts, like head coach Shane Steichen did during his time with the Eagles, but I guess only time will tell. On paper, this Philadelphia Eagles team should easily win their division. They clearly have the best roster from top to bottom, and once they make the playoffs, I expect them to make a lot of noise. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any Eagles content in the future. Turn on that notification bell as well so you can see these videos as soon as they drop. Let me know what you guys thought about the Friday's game in Brazil, and also let me know how you guys think about the Eagles and how far they could get this season. Thank you for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one.